Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
So, folks, good evening and welcome to the Big Blues show with Macman and Big Bobby G. Tonight, we're going to, of course, talk about the Giants. We'll talk about a lot of other, some other things that happen in football, and it should last us the whole show, Bobby.
I hope so.
I do too. I don't want to run out of time again, you know. So anyway, so there's still news about Aaron Rodgers talking with the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And I mean, he looked pretty good at the end of last year. But he still has that mindset where he likes to bring everybody over and take over the team. Now, I don't know if Shohan would put up with that or if the ball would put up with that. But I guess I want your opinion on that, Bobby.
Yeah, so you're right. I did read that he kind of has he's a kind of a package deal. Kind of reminds me of a couple of my cats who kind of hang out together and they kind of walk around the house together and they're a package deal. But anyways, so he wants to bring his buddy Adams with him. He has reached out to the Giants, and this is really before the Stafford news came out that that they were maybe interested in doing a deal with him and how that kind of fell through, obviously, and he's going back to the Rams. And he has reached out to the Giants numerous times prior to that, during that talk, and I guess now they've actually been, from what I've been reading and what I've been seeing, they're in serious discussions now with the Giants. I don't hate the move. There's not a lot out there that you can get excited about. I feel about Justin Fields, but he's kind of an unknown. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's kind of the same type, I think, of quarterback at this juncture of his career as Aaron Rodgers is. So I don't know if he'd be on the cheaper side. I don't know what Rodgers is asking for money. I don't now. The Jets, I'm assuming, owe him money, and they're going to have to pay him money. So maybe he'll do like a Russell Wilson, discount that he gave. That Russell Wilson gave the Steelers last year. That the Broncos paid most of his salary, and if that's the case, and we can sign an Aaron Rodgers where the Jets are picking up the majority of his contract, then that's also appealing to me. So he won't cost us a lot of money. I don't know if there's really any of the free agent quarterbacks who would, except maybe Sam Darnold might be kind of like I don't know, maybe a Daniel Jones type of salary of $40 million a year. And I'm sure Aaron will be a lot less than that. And at this juncture of his career, it's kind of funny because I remember not too long ago when the Jets decided that they kind of wanted to part ways. He said in no uncertain terms, I want to go to where I'm wanted, which is understandable. And he said, I want to go to a team that has a chance to be in the playoffs. Now, I'm not sure if the Giants are that team. I don't know what they're going to do next week in free agency, which starts in 10 days or so. We don't know what the draft's going to be like. That's still an unknown. That's a couple of months away. I know we're more than one or two players away that maybe where Rodgers might have wanted to go and maybe feel more, maybe a more of appealing type of an option for him. So that's the kind of thing that's making me say, Aaron's picked up the phone calling the Giants. Maybe he wants to stick it to the Jets. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are. Bringing Adams along with him. I don't know how much he's going to cost. So the Giants have enough money, obviously, to swing for some fences. If Adams going to come in at a decent rate and Rodgers comes in, as we just mentioned, a decent rate, I'm kind of all for that. The only other reservation I have with an Aaron Rodgers coming to the Giants is the Giants at some point in the draft, whether it's the first round, the second round, or the third round, they're going to take a quarterback.
Right.
Well, if they trade back into the bottom half of the first, they take somebody at the top of the second, or they just wait. And we can talk about some of the quarterbacks in a little while from the combine. The Giants liked a couple of them. Yeah. So one might be there in the third round. One might be there in the second round. I'm not sure. But is Aaron Rodgers the type of quarterback, and I don't think he's ever been, is going to kind of take maybe a young person like that under his wing, show him the ropes, show him how to be an NFL quarterback, show him what it takes to be an NFL quarterback? Because I don't see any evidence of him ever doing that during his career. So that's a reservation I have too, with the Giants definitely bringing a young quarterback in, signing a veteran like Aaron Rodgers, who has not shown the ability or the want to do something like that to help groom a quarterback when he's when the sun's setting, he's riding off on his horse on a beach someplace. So,
well, Bobby, I got to disagree with you there. He did do that with Aaron Love. Did he do that? Yes, he did it with Aaron Love. He kind of groomed for the 3 years. He kind of groomed him. He knew how it was. Brett Favre didn't do that for him, so he did that with Aaron Love. And for 3 years, he kind of groomed him to take over the first spot on the Green Bay Packers. So.
Okay. How was he with Wilson with the Jets? I know they were there for 1 year together.
He was good. I mean, he was like a cheerleader. He was kind of calling plays for him, and if they worked, he was jumping up and down. So, he gets a bad rap. He really does, and he should with what he does as far as trying to take over teams. But as a person that tries to help young quarterbacks, I mean, he's pretty good, Bobby.
How about his he was kind of AWOL during the OTAs last year with the Jets, and so I don't. Again, if the Giants are in a position right now where they need everybody, all hands on deck. Everybody's got to be on. Everyone has to be there, and they have to really be committed to that team, I think. So, I mean, I'm looking at here, Richard saying, will he be in training camp? I'm not worried more about training camp. I'm more worried about the OTAs and the off-season programs. Will he be around the guys? Will he build that chemistry, with the receivers we have now and the running backs we have now? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he will, but I don't know.
I mean, when he went to Egypt, I think that's what we're talking about. When he took that time off and went to Egypt.
Yeah. I don't know where he went.
Yeah. I guess it hurt him because he wasn't there to work out with the players.
He's coming off an Achilles injury. You got to kind of work your way back from that too. I mean, all that being said, you're right. Rodgers had a pretty good year this year. He had a pretty good, and when his boy came there, Adams, he actually probably moved up a notch, even more so. Yeah. I want to say if you looked at his, and without Adams wasn't there for the whole 17-game schedule, but if you prorate when Adams got there and over a 17-game schedule, Rodgers throws around 4,000 yards.
Yeah.
And he's probably got like 27 touchdowns to 12 interceptions or something like that. So when was the last time we had that type of ratio of a quarterback for the Giants? That's why I'm intrigued by it. So he still played at a high level. And I'm not saying the Jets, are a great team. I'm not saying the Jets are a much better team than the Giants are, because I don't think they are. But if you brought Adams in, you paired him with who we have, Johnson tight end, Neighbors at a wide receiver, you might have something there.
Yeah, you might. You just might. We didn't have a quarterback on the put it the right way. We didn't have a paid quarterback on the roster. But it looks like Tommy DeVito is going to return as at least the third string quarterback.
Right. Yeah. I'm almost at a loss for words here when it comes to how the Giants have really done this quarterback thing here. We talked about it last week, how they really haven't replenished that well. And dating back before this regime was here, I never thought the Giants tried to replenish that well. Anyways, they always sign a journeyman quarterback to back up Manning. They signed journeyman quarterback to back up Daniel Jones. And so now because you're doing that, this is where you are today. Where you mentioned how maybe he did tutor Love a little bit over in Green Bay. At least even when Green Bay had a really good starting quarterback, playing at a high level, they still tried to replenish that quarterback room looking down the road. This is one thing the Giants haven't done, and this is why they're behind the 8 ball today. Mm-hmm. So, they have Tommy DeVito and whoever they draft and whoever they sign. Yeah. And right now, we don't know who that's going to be. This is not a great draft. We all know it's not a great draft for quarterbacks. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. Quarterbacks always get overdrafted. The Giants are going to draft a quarterback. I don't know. I looked at some mock drafts. I see both Sanders and, I see them both there for us in some cases, that they just drop down. Because they're, you look at, someone like a Carter or a Hunter, they could go 1 and 2. And then we have Sanders and Ward sitting there right for us at 3. Do you really, in no guarantee that either of those two guys are going to be what you hope they're going to be. Giants are in a really, really tight spot right now.
Yeah.
And so that being said, do you maybe go all in on the Sam Darnold instead of an Aaron Rodgers?
Sam Darnold is younger, right?
He'd be 27.
Right. So, I mean, it'd be only a 1 year. It would be only a 1 year thing, though. I mean, he's not going to be there. He's not your franchise quarterback.
No. And even if you drafted a Sam Darnold, if you signed a Sam Darnold, you're still probably going to draft a quarterback somewhere along the line because you don't want to go down that rabbit hole that they've been in for the last few years.
Right.
It's the Giants are they're looking for a prime position player on their football team when the pickings are pretty slim in free agency and the pickings are pretty slim in the NFL draft. They could not have been looking for this at a worse time.
Yeah, I agree. So both Manning and Jackson Dart QB'd for Ole Miss. Dart is the third-ranked quarterback.
Yep.
Broke the school's all-time passing record, and he did in the Senior Bowl. He did a good job too. Not to count the combine with GM Riddick there.
Yeah.
So, and Eli and him are, I guess, they're talking.
Eli's been per Dart's own words. Eli has been a nice mentor for him. He's been to the Manning. You know how the Mannings have that passing camp every year. So he's gone there for multiple years in a row. So he's been around Peyton and Eli and Cooper and Archie. So he's been around those guys for a number of years now. As you mentioned, he went to Eli's college. And he broke a lot of records at Ole Miss that were held by, some very good ball players, Eli being one of them, obviously. He was the, so he's the quarterback pick for all SEC. And, we were talking before we came on about, the different maybe conferences in college. Arguably the SEC is the best, the most competitive and the best conference for football in the country in college. I think everybody can say, you want to say Big Ten, some years, whatever. But consistently, the SEC is always there playing for the championships, it seems like, whether it's Alabama or LSU or someone else.
Yes.
So the last quarterback who was the number one or the consensus best quarterback in the SEC coming out of college now plays for the Dallas Cowboys. So, and Dak Prescott. So they got him in the third round. Now, if the Giants want or think that Dart is their man, and I watched him at the combine, he threw a beautiful long ball. And he threw the outs, and he looks like he can make all the throws. He has everyone was saying he has great spin on the ball. I mean, he missed a couple long ones, but so did everybody else there. But all in all, he was probably him and Ewers, believe it or not. Ewers is also someone the Giants liked a lot, the Texas quarterback. They liked him a lot at the combine. He had a really good combine. And, and you look back at Ewers, I'll get back to Dart in a second, but you look back at Ewers going into this year, he was going to be a top 10 pick. Now, he got hurt, didn't show up at some big games for Texas. Cooper Manning's son came in and Arch Manning and played very well in his absence. But when Ewers was ready to play, he got back in and played. The problem with Ewers is he just didn't shine when the lights were bright this year. It really dropped his draft status. But I looked at the statistics before we came on the air. I didn't write them down. They're very impressive. I mean, statistically wise, he's had an outstanding college career. I mean, any quarterback coming out of, I don't care what year you come out of a draft, his stats are very good compared to a lot of quarterbacks who went number one or number two in the draft. So he's someone the Giants could look at. But I think you're right. Dart is probably the third quarterback after the big two. And I think Ewers did himself a lot of favors this past week at the combine. So it wouldn't shock me if he moves up into the top 5 after his performance this past week. That being said, the Giants, if they want to draft Dart, they're probably going to have to come back in. And I don't see them taking him with the third overall pick. I don't think that's going to happen. They might have to come back in the bottom half of the draft. So who in the bottom half of the draft normally don't need quarterbacks, but there's a couple teams that do. Pittsburgh could sure use one. They're in the bottom half of the draft.
Yeah.
So there are some teams like Pittsburgh, and there's 2 or 3 teams that could use someone like a Ewers or a Dart. Quarterbacks always get overdrafted.
Right.
The Giants, if they don't take one at 3, or let's say Sanders is gone, Ward's gone, and the Giants are left with, not terrible football players, very, very good football players to choose from. Carter, Hunter, defensive tackle Graham, any of those 3 players would be a great addition to the Giants team. If they don't take one there and they get kind of closed out at the bottom part of the first round draft, at the first round, there could be 4 quarterbacks gone, and the Giants haven't picked their second pick yet. That's my fear going into this draft. It's not a great quarterback draft. It's a good quarterback draft, and they're not going to go in the top 10 or the top 15, but quarterbacks might go in the top 32. And the Giants aren't the only team that are going to want to trade back in. There's going to be other teams. I would think the Raiders would maybe want to trade back in. The Jets may want to trade back to the bottom part of the draft. So there's going to be competition for the Giants to get those last 2 quarterbacks, I think. Again, they're in a tough spot right now. And I can foresee a scenario where we're on the outside, second round, we're picking, I believe, the second pick in the second round we have, and 4 quarterbacks are already gone. I can see that happening.
Well, I wouldn't mind getting Travis Hunter. I mean, he's, maybe the best.
Oh, no. They're going to get a good ball player. They're going to get a great ball player. Maybe even maybe a generational ball player. But they're not. They might be on the outside looking in at quarterbacks. That's why I'm really fearful about how we look at this free agency and where we go and who we sign at that position, because it's and I like the quarterback from Syracuse that you've been pounding the table on every week with me. His name escapes me right now. He's the 5th ranked quarterback on CBS's big board. So there'll be options for the Giants. Yeah. Dillard is an option over in Oregon. He's an option for the Giants. I just think those are the top 4 we're just talking about, and the Giants might not get one of those top 4 if they don't come back into the bottom part of the first. I could be wrong. Maybe they all fall out, but I don't foresee that happening. They're always overdrafted. They were overdrafted this past year.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Penix being drafted.
We're still talking about college quarterbacks that have to go into the pros, and not all of them do so well when they get there. Of course, pros a little bit more, a little bit more experience, a little more faster. The defenses are better. So, it's really a crapshoot, Bobby.
Yeah, well, you just said it. More quarterbacks fail than make it. I mean, we're mentioning these 4 quarterbacks. Chances are, of these 4 quarterbacks, 1 is good. That's more likely to happen, and 3 are just okay, and 2 are out of the league in 4 or 5 years. That could happen. It happens all the time. It happens with top draft. It happens during good quarterback. Well, supposedly good quarterback drafts. When you say, there's 4 or 5 that can't misses. Well, that's not true, because they miss. And there's a guy who Jackson, who gets drafted because somebody decides to come back in the bottom of the first round and they want to take Jackson, and he's probably the best of all of them. Happens.
Right. Definitely does. So let's do this. Let's do the trivia. Because
I never
Yeah.
get these.
you got one, I think.
Yeah, two, but one's kind of has an asterisk because I just blurred the answer out and I wasn't supposed to. So that's but I'll take two.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Bobby, and let's put the music on here so we can do it right. Who was the Giant cornerback who led the team in interceptions in 2011? That's your question. So don't blurt out the answer.
Nope. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Can I Google it? Can I Google?
No, you can't Google it. That's cheating.
I'm all over cheating.
You are.
I got through college.
Don't let your wife know about that.
No,
So
no.
All right. The 1989 season, Giants are 12-4 at the end of the year. They get beat by the Rams, I think, in overtime, 12-10, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that.
I mean, the Giants had the Super Bowl. They were going. And
They had a good year that year.
Yeah. And the Rams said, no, you're not.
Yeah, so it's funny because I remember during that season, Bill Parcells was asked to compare that team that he had because it had a lot of the same players that were on the 86 team. Not all, but there was still a core, Phil and Lawrence, a couple others. Some have already moved on. The offensive line was already changed. People have moved on. Carl Nelson, who was a tackler for the Giants in '86, was actually up in the booth broadcasting the game. So a lot of the players had moved on to different careers. And I remember Bill Parcells being asked, "How do you compare this team to the '86 team?" He said, "Well, the '86 team, I always knew what I was going to get. I knew exactly who we were. I knew what we could do. And I knew what we put our mind to it, we were going to accomplish it. This team is a mystery to me every week, even though they had a good record. The Giants won a lot of games, 12 games that year. They won a lot of games by like 6 points, 7 points, 10 points. They weren't steamrolling anybody that particular year. They beat some good teams down the stretch, but they weren't that defensive, mauling 86 team the Giants were. They weren't the efficient offense the 86 Giants were. Phil got hurt during the 89 season. Hostler come in and he won a couple games. Again, didn't blow anybody away, but he was able to win a couple of games. Our wide receivers were kind of in flux. Odessa Turner was drafted the year before. Kind of led our team in receiving that year. Stephen Baker was a rookie who came on, and he had a year before he came on that year. He had a really good year for the Giants. Dave Meggett was a rookie that year. He played very well, good returner, great out of the backfield. It was a team that was kind of in flux. It was a team that was set up for the next year to hit the ground running and win a Super Bowl. It was a good team. Joe Morris would get hurt during this season, and his Giants career would end. So even there was a changing of the guard in the backfield. Even though O.J. Anderson was still there, Meggett was kind of being put into that position. The next year, Rodney Hampton would be drafted. And so there was even though 89 was a successful year for the Giants, a heartbreaking loss in the playoffs. They were 1 game away from the Super Bowl, or after the NFC Championship game, 2 games away from the Super Bowl. the season kind of ended for the Giants. If you look back, and I always like to, and I say this a lot to you when I capitalize, one game on how the season really was. If you take that Rams game, it wasn't a blowout game. It was the Rams won 19-13 because it was a walk-off, home run, if you will, or so it was 13-13. Again, Giants not really scoring a lot of points, not giving up a lot of points, but they weren't really scoring a lot of points either. And I think I said to you prior to we came on the air, and I wish I had looked it up. And I remember, gosh, I was 29 years old, I guess, and I'm dating myself now. I'm 29 years old in 1989. I remember reading the next day about 9 plays that went wrong. To right now, I couldn't tell you exactly what those 9 plays were. But if one of those plays, it was a great article. I forget who wrote it. It was from New York sports writer. And he went through all these plays. And he says, if one of these plays doesn't happen, the Giants win this game. It was a great read. If anybody ever wants to go check that out, and I was sitting there, I almost started crying, I think, because he was so right. And that was an odd game. It was was now, and I want to say this too. I forget who the defensive back was. Prior to the score that won the game, the defensive back for the Giants, and was it? I can see his face.
Was it Seahorn?
Say again.
Was it Jason Seahorn?
No. Jason would be later. Was it Mark Collins?
Mark Collins played then, yeah.
So Mark Collins gets hurt the play before that. The Rams offensive coaches up in the booth see he's limping and limping back to the huddle. So they call a play, a fly or a post. And he runs by Collins, and who's the quarterback there for the Rams? Oh, goodness gracious, I can see his face too. He throws a strike, and because the Rams coaches saw that, and that was one of the 9 plays. That was probably the 9th play that if the Giants, it didn't happen to them, they would have won that game. But that play, I think it was Collins. Mark Collins got hurt. Rams coaching staff sees it, do a fly, do a post, game over. That's why the Giants lost that game. Isn't that? It's just strange when you think. And when I say it encapsulates the Giants' season, is they were in such tight games all year long, and they won 12 of them, and they were in tight games, and the luck kind of ran out on a tight game for the Giants at that particular season.
Yeah. So let's get to the 1988 season, I think we're talking right now, or 89?
89. Well, so we just want the 89 season. And I'm trying to think of anything else I can, Dave Meggett had a great year first, that year, his rookie year. I like to so these are some of the players the Giants drafted in that, and I'm going to give you 7 that really contributed that year and in the years to follow. Brian Williams was the center. First round draft pick for the Giants.
Yeah.
Remember Bob Cratch? He was an offensive guard.
Yeah.
And Billy Ard retires, and we put Cratch in.
Right.
So that was a seamless type of a thing the Giants did to keep that offensive line replenished. Lewis Tillman was a running back also. The Giants drafted that year. He became kind of a rotational guy. You remember that? You remember
I think I do.
And defensive tackle was a guy named Brad Henke. Now, Brad was never a starter, but he was a rotational piece for the Giants for years. Came out of this draft. Dave Meggett, we mentioned, he's a running back. He's a 5th-round draft pick. In the 6th round, the Giants drafted one of my favorite Giants ever, Howard Cross.
Yeah.
In that draft. and they drafted Myron Guyton, who played safety for us for years to come after that. Those 7 players and there was 12 picks that year. Again, it was 12 rounds back in the 80s, and but of those 12 picks, 7 of those players. So this was a home run draft for the Giants, because not only did they get starters, they got situational players on defense and offense that helped them win some games through the early 90s. And certainly into our Super Bowl season of 1990. That was a very good draft for the Giants, the 89 draft.
Right. So, Pro Bowl selections that year. Dave Meggett, Lawrence Taylor, Otis Anderson rushes for over 1,000 yards.
He's also, in that year, don't forget now, he's also voted the comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
OJ was.
Yeah. So we're going to spotlight, of course, David Meggett.
Perfect segue into this because came up in an 89 draft. You remember watching sports Center, and Chris Berman would always say, and it used to crack me up. And he said it like almost every week. Look at that little Meggett go. You remember that?
Yeah.
And it seemed like every week, especially during that first year, and really a few years for the Giants, he either caught the ball and ran for a touchdown or ran for a first down. He took kickoffs and punts and was really his rookie year, he's over 500 yards in all-purpose punt and kickoff returns. And that was a Giants record at the time. When he retired, and we'll get to some of their teams he played for, but when he retired, he was so proficient at kickoffs and punts, he actually held the NFL record. To this day, now someone did break it, I don't know who that is, but to this day, he's still number 2 in the NFL punt kickoff type of all-purpose yardage. So that says a lot for Dave Meggett.
I think number 1 is either Hester.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think it is Hester, the Chicago Bears. Yes,
right.
For sure. So Dave Meggett plays at a small college. That's probably why the reason why he probably was a 5th-round draft pick. He played at Division II Townsend State. At his senior year, he wins the Walter Payton Award, which goes to the outstanding player at a Division II college.
Right.
Kind of like a Heisman Trophy, maybe an ugly stepchild of the Heisman Trophy winner, if you will, but a great reward to win, for a Division II, Division III type of college player. Again, it's probably why he went in the 5th round. He kind of had he was really a Bill Parcells favorite. So wherever Bill went, when he left the Giants, he went to New England, and Dave would kind of follow him.
Yeah.
And he left the Patriots. He went to the Jets. And like Curtis Martin, Dave would kind of follow him. So Curtis was also that type of, he went from the Patriots to the Jets also with Parcells back then. But he had a great career. Unfortunately, he had some issues, after his post-playing career was over. But I really one of my most favorite Giants, and he was so much fun to watch. He was 5'7". He weighed about 180 pounds, and he gave it all. He was pound for pound one of the toughest guys you're going to see out in the field. Lawrence Taylor said that many times during practice. He said Meggett would just run into me full speed, and I just have to tell him, Dave, please don't do that.
So I don't know if I ever told you this, but we were going to a card signing show. My little guy, Danny's with me. And he signed a card, of course, for Danny. And Danny looked at him as he was leaving and said, "You should still be with the Giants." And he said, "I wish I was." So
I know, right?
Yeah. So anyway.
No, he was, to me, I almost forgot that he played for other teams. But as I was looking him up today and reading some stuff about him, I almost forgot because I going back to what I said earlier about Chris Berman. I used to love watching SportsCenter just for that.
Yeah,
the highlights.
Yeah. So let's see. He played for the Giants 89 to 94. The Pats 95 to 97, and the Jets in 1998. He did go to a Super Bowl, but they lost. Yeah, they lost to.
But he also won one with the Giants, so he went to 2 Super Bowls.
Right. So, sorry. Let's see, what else do we got here? Deebo Samuel. Washington trades to San Fran for the wide receiver. Well, he plays running back, wide receiver, tight end, whatever.
Good ball player.
Yes. And he's strong when he's healthy. Last year, I think he got hurt. Last year, I think Brandon Ayuk got hurt. So the 49ers said, coach says, we're looking to get younger because we're maybe the oldest team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Debo's with the Commanders now, Bob.
So they got him for a 5th-round draft pick. I think that's pretty cheap. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something about Samuel that I don't know. That he's maybe, as you said, he's injury prone. I don't know if he's still hurt. I don't know. It just seems to me for a 5th-round draft pick for a very productive offensive player, who you mentioned can play multiple positions for you, seems to be like a steal. And the Redskins are just a few players that we talked about them a few weeks ago. Can they continue that that ascend? I don't know, but if they make deals like this, maybe they can, which is kind of bad news for us.
Right.
So not only do they get a steal in my mind, they also give away, I think, nothing. I mean, a 5th-round draft pick typically is going to be a player who's going to be a special teams player for you anyways. Maybe a spot starter at best. I think Washington just pulled off a hell of a trade. And again, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe something's wrong that I don't know about medically. But to me, it was. I don't know why the Giants didn't look at that. If that was all it took, we had 2 fourths.
Yeah. There is the question of the cancer too that he brings to teams.
There's some baggage, and that could be why it's a 5th-round draft pick again. So there's other factors, and just not just what his skill level is, because his skill level is very good, but there's other factors, I guess, that go along with someone like that you're going to have to stomach and live with, and you always hope. I know coaches always think they can take a player, and I can make that person and that a better person, a better football player, and it's not going to hurt my team. But ask the Miami Dolphins on how that works out.
Yeah, right. He goes to the White House. I mean, we both heard, I guess, different things today. I heard they're not. You heard they probably are. But we have to agree this is a political thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope it's not. I think there's a place for everything in life, in people's beliefs and what they and what their strong opinions are, but I always think of sports as a place where everyone can kind of come together, and it doesn't matter. If you're at Giant Stadium, I don't think anybody's wondering what your political beliefs are when you're sitting next to a Giants fan with a Giants jersey on and you're both cheering for your team. I think sports has always been a place that it's an outlet for us, whether it's, just to kind of put, compartmentalize work, compartmentalize whatever's happening in your life. You can put the TV on and for 3 hours you can escape, or 6 hours, depending on how long you want to watch football during the course of the day. But you're watching your favorite team. To me, it's always been a 3 hours escape. if I was a player, and I don't care who the president is, who the vice president is, and if I'm a player and I was invited to the White House, one, I'd love to go see the White House anyways, but if I can go meet the president of the United States, and kind of be honored by, that office, I mean, where do I sign up? And I don't care who the president is.
Yeah. Well, would there have been a difference if Obama was president?
I don't know. I mean, you could say the same thing about Biden, I guess. If it's a Democratic president or a Republican president, if Bush was president, would that make a difference? He's a Republican. I don't know. I just think that from what I've read and what I've heard, Philadelphia has not been invited yet. The president does plan on inviting them, and I read today that if and when that invitation comes, the team will go. What I liked about the Super Bowl and some of the players, talking about the Chiefs players, were actually shaking the president's hand before this game started. So I mean, I think maybe a lot of that baggage is behind hopefully us when it comes to sports and politics. No one's kneeling anymore. No one's when the anthem's playing. So I'd like to think that we're beyond that, and we can put that stuff behind us. And like I said, compartmentalize this belief with that belief, and sports. In my opinion, sports should not have anything to do with that.
There is a small group of people that are still kneeling, Bobby. Soccer team, women's soccer team. Not the men's. I'm trying to think of another team. Well, just for now, let's say the women's soccer team is still kneeling, but there are people that are outraged at this and want
more so than ever before. I agree with you. Yes, they are. I forgot about the women's soccer team. That's a group that has, for whatever reason, decided to bring politics into sports, which again, as you can tell, I don't agree with it. But I did forget about the women's soccer team. They're also, if you read a lot of articles, and I'm talking about from both sides of the aisle, both sides are not happy with that type of demonstration anymore, anyways. So
yeah,
that's just things that you see, and yeah, I would hope that wouldn't happen. But right now Canada's booing the national anthem, so we'll see what happens with that too.
Canada, tell Canada to get out of it.
The 51st state.
Fancy flags and what?
I was just kidding.
Yes, I know. I think Canada means well. I think, when it comes to, I really don't want this to get into politics here, so I'm not going to do this. So
one of my favorite subjects.
Let's. I know it is. Oh, Jesus. So
maybe
Matt.
Maybe we'll during the when we have the midterms, maybe we'll do a political show just for fun.
All right.
During the midterms.
All right. I don't know if me and you will agree on everything, but
that's okay. That makes it more fun.
Yeah, it does. It does. So this is your answer, Bobby, to the question. I don't know if you had it right or not.
You gave me the answer. I was going to say Corey Webster.
Oh, were you? Well, then you had it right.
Yeah, because we were talking about Corey a few weeks back, and I was kind of likening him to Banks, because Corey had a really rough start with the Giants. The Giants didn't have a first-round draft pick when they drafted Corey Webster. So, all intents and purposes, he was a high second-round pick, but he was our first pick of that draft. So he was he was our first round draft pick that particular year. Corey had a really tough start to his career. So much so that he was benched for a number of games. Banks, I think, was benched for plays. Corey was actually benched for games. We didn't see the field. I'm not even sure they let him play special teams. He might have. But he couldn't make a play on the ball. He couldn't cover anybody. And I thought he was a bust. But sometimes if you bench a player, and we talked about this numerous times, sometimes a player who's benched, a light bulb goes off. And they buckle down and they just change how they prepare for a game, how they study for a game, how their film sessions are, how they practice, and they just change all that. Now other players get benched and they don't think they're doing anything wrong. And I think they continue to do what they're doing and don't get any better. Corey was the latter. So he did change a lot of his preparation, not just for games, but for practice. And it really suited him well because he became a very good ball player for us for a number of years. And I remember, I mean, he was in the doghouse. So Corey Webster, outstanding football player. I have a trivia question for you. What was Corey Webster's best? Well, I can't say his best play. What's he known for during a Giants playoff run at the end of a game?
The end of the game.
End of a game.
Was it a special teams play?
Nope. My favorite play by Corey Webster.
Interception.
Ever. So Giants, I'll give it to you. So the Giants are on that magical run in 2007. Outstanding run. That, I didn't want, when they started they started down in Tampa Bay and, they went to Dallas and Green Bay, and that's where we're going to go in a minute with Corey. I did not want the season to end. And then they beat the Patriots. That was it had to be by far the most fun I had watching the Giants in a season. So Corey Webster intercepts Brett Favre. We kick a field goal to go to Super Bowl.
All right. I did say interception. You just didn't hear me.
No, I wasn't taking that answer.
Okay.
One of my all-time favorite plays by any football Giant was that play against Brett Favre. We kick the field goal. We go to the Super Bowl. Outstanding play by Corey Webster.
Yes. Giants are expected to trade with Tennessee for the number 1 overall pick. They're number 3 this year, not number 6 like they were last year. So they do have value to do this. What are your thoughts?
So it's going to cost a lot. It'll cost us our number 3 pick this year, our number 2 pick this year.
Excuse me.
Probably our number 1 next year, and maybe a throw-in of number 4 next year. It's a lot. Now, if I'm Tennessee, I want more than that. I mean, that should get it done if you use the chart. If I'm Tennessee, I want the Giants number 1 pick this year. I want their number 2 pick this year. I want their number 1 next year, and I want their number 2 next year. And I may have to. And if I'm Tennessee, I throw in a 4th round pick next year to get that done. Yeah, the Giants have to give up a lot of draft capital, a lot of good ball players for a player. And let's say it's Ward. I think that's who it would be. For a player who's not guaranteed. And we already talked about this earlier today. No player is guaranteed to be good when you're drafted. I don't care who you are. But the quarterbacks are always overdrafted. There's a lot of more pressure on the football team to get that pick right. It's not an offensive tackle. It's not a wide receiver. It's not a running back. You got to get that pick right. The Giants will give up possibly 4 very good football players, for a player who may not be any good. That's tough.
Yeah. That's the way the draft is. It's a crapshoot.
No. But it might cost them more than that. If I'm Tennessee, I want everything. And that's where I'm starting. Number 1 this year, number 2 this year, number 1 next year, number 2 next year. I'm starting right there. I may ask for more if I'm Tennessee, because the problem with the Giants is this. Now they have the number 3 pick, as you just mentioned. The problem is this, though. The Jets are going to want to trade up. Now they can't. They don't have the capital we do because we have a higher picks. So the Raiders are going to want to trade up. Now I don't know what the Raiders or Jets want to throw in players to go along with the draft picks to sweeten the pot for them. But there's going to be. It's not just going to be us trying to get the first pick. There's going to be other teams that are going to want to move up into that. If Tennessee says, "Hey guys, this is for sale," they're going to have a lot of teams calling them up and say, I want Abdul Carter. He's a Marcus Parsons type of, maybe better than Marcus Parsons. I want that guy on my defense. I got potentially the defensive player of the year, and I could trade up to get him. And I've got a bunch of players that I think are good. I put that piece. I go from a 500 team to a playoff team. Maybe I want Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter wants to go both ways now. He says he can go both ways. I wouldn't do it, but you're going to get the poor kid killed. So you don't want to do that, but he thinks he can do that. I mentioned Grant, great defensive tackle from Michigan. All 3 of these players are good ball players.
What is he talking about going both ways? What are we talking here?
He wants to play wide receiver and he wants to play defensive back. But I know what you're talking about, but I'm not talking about that.
Okay. Folks, we got to get out of here. It's the top of the hour. Thank you for checking us out, Richard. And we hope that you join us next week. Same giant channel, same giant time. Have a good one, folks. We'll see you soon.